On today's video, we need to put 3 blocks on these 2 big boys. Welcome back to Nate the Hoof Guy. First up is 21, and he's actually got problems on both front feet. Let's start with this left front. Both these bulls today are pasture bulls, so we're going to make sure we get these soles cleaned up a little bit before we start the grinder, just in case there might be some rocks hidden up inside there. I can already see the problem with this guy. There's an ulcer right in that typical sole ulcer spot. Now, because these boys do spend most of their time on pasture, there's not a lot of extra sole to remove here. We're just touching this sole up, getting it balanced just right, and then we're going to go and tackle that ulcer spot. Now, in general, you don't see a lot of sole ulcers associated with pasture cows because they're walking on softer ground. That force is taken up then by the ground and not their feet as they are when they're walking on concrete. However, in this case, these ulcers are caused by a different reason. This sole ulcer is actually quite small. You're going to see a large one when we get over to that right front on this guy. But first, let's get this wrapped up and get a block on that other claw. Take the pressure off of this one. We'll get this claw fixed first, and then we'll move to that other one, which, like I said, is much worse. It only takes about a couple minutes for this glue to cure, and then we can get that foot down. Old 21, he's doing well so far, but we've still got that right front to do. So let's get this foot down and get on with it. As I mentioned, this right front has a lot more going on with it, and I'm going to explain to you why this big boy is getting ulcers on his front feet to start with, and it's not because of the concrete. So we finish getting him trimmed up. I'll explain all that. So if sole ulcers are typically associated with excess pressure in concrete, then why is an animal that's raised on dirt getting sole ulcers? Doesn't make sense, does it? But there are other causes. In this case, these animals go out on pasture, and because of that pasture, in the spring they get a new flush of grass that's got a high sugar content. That high sugar content actually creates a condition known as acidosis if they eat too much of it. That acidosis can lead to laminitis, which ultimately can lead to an ulcer. So how does that happen? By reducing the ability of that support system inside the foot to support that pedal bone. It then, because it's compromised, allows that pedal bone to move more inside that foot, thus causing sole ulcers. So how do I know that that's actually what caused this sole ulcer on this big boy? Well, because it's not the only one I saw this day. I saw all sorts of different levels of sole ulceration and hemorrhaging in that typical sole ulcer site across all animals in this herd, not just him. Here's a picture of a few of those. Now, this is not a new phenomenon. In fact, you've seen this on many of my videos throughout the years where you see these front foot ulcers. Almost always, they're on my grazing herds, nearly every single one of them, due to that very fact. In the spring that we're going to have that, it's just something that you have to deal with, being able to work around these issues, try to keep that feed switch and the results of that to a minimum. But a lot of times it can't be avoided. Now, on a big bull like this, it's going to be more pronounced because guess what? He weighs a lot more. So that failure of that support system to be able to support that pedal bone in the foot is going to show up more on him. That's why we have an ulcer of this sort. So we're going to get a block on this other claw. Now he's going to have blocks on both fronts, but he's going to be a lot more comfortable with them. And actually, I think he looks quite dapper with his pink wraps and brand new shoes. Don't you agree? Now on to our next bull. And unlike his buddy, his problem is on his left rear foot. As we start his trim, that problem in the white line is visible quite quickly. Now I know that sometimes when I say these problems are obvious, they may not be obvious to you. But the reason that they're obvious to me, obviously from experience, but also I know that because that heel bulb is separated, that the problem is likely going to be high up on that claw, and it's going to be in the white line. This area where this one is the most common location to find a defect, so I automatically look there first. Now, because I know exactly where this is going to track, I can put that block on, let that glue cure while I work. Do you see that redness in the white line where I'm working right now? That's evidence of that laminitis that I was talking about earlier. What is laminitis? Generally speaking, it just means inflammation of the lamina. The lamina are what supports that pedal bone inside that claw. It's what allows the weight to transfer from the bones in the foot to that outside wall. When they become inflamed, well, then they're not able to support that pedal bone the way that they're supposed to, and then we get that more movement, I should say. We get more movement from that pedal bone inside that claw. That's why we see that redness. That's why we see the ulceration sometimes. It's due to that lack of support being provided because of that condition. Now, as I've talked about many times before, the separation that we're removing here is the body's natural attempt at trying to heal this. If it can get rid of this sole by separating it from the hoof and allowing a brand new layer to form, then potentially that problem would resolve on its own, correct? That's kind of how the body deals with it. But of course, there can be complications. As you're about to see when we get in here, there's some digital dermatitis on that heel, and that's because this didn't fall away quickly, and that pocket was able to form in there, creating an anaerobic environment, which is perfect for those bacteria. Hence, this area is still open. Now, the lesion itself, that's actually healed up lower down on the foot, but it's this area up above that's still open because of that digital dermatitis. Here you can get a better view of that. That lesion down below actually has a brand new layer of hoof horn over the top of it. It's the lesion up above caused by this digital dermatitis that we're now having to fix. So if you've ever wondered if these things would heal if these animals were in the wild, or what wild animals do if they get problems like this, sure, it's going to take a little bit longer for them to heal, and hopefully they don't come to succumb to predators in the meantime. But that's the unfortunate part of nature. They don't have someone there to take care of these cattle like we do here. It's our job to make sure that if they do have problems, that we help fix those in a timely fashion so that this animal's not lame, doesn't lose weight, and things like that. Got this area freed now, so we're going to get it nice and clean with our chlorhexidine, and then, yes, we're going to give her a wrap, him, I should say, a wrap as well. You often wonder if these treatments provide immediate relief to these animals, and in today's cases, I know they did because both these boys were tender coming in. They looked a little weak, but when we got done, they wanted to tangle. Immediately upon leaving the chute, one left, the other one decided to headbutt. Later on in the day, as I was trimming, these two nearly dented my truck fighting, so they're ready to go. Thankfully, we fixed them up, and it won't be long. They'll be working at full capacity.